This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Ping.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Hey, it's another groovy day, and you know why that is? Because it's Life Mastery Radio Day. I get to hang out with Jackie, and Jackie and I get to hang out with some really, really cool people who are on the cutting edge of empowerment and our success and teaching us how it is that we should show up in the world. So that's the number one. Well, the second reason, I guess these two reasons are tied, but the other reason it's a groovy day is because when I got up this morning, I decided before my feet hit the ground, it was going to be a groovy day. So that sets my path for the rest of the day. Now, things might change, something might happen, but I always just think back, hey, I started out groovy. I can implement something here to make it groovy. And sometimes it even turns out groovier than groovy. So that's the way I start my day. That's why it's groovy. And I have my co-host with me today. She's a groovy chick as well.
I want to know what's groovier than groovy.
Pretty hard to do, but I said it, so it must be.
Must be. Groovy
Jackie,
times two.
Groovy chick as well. Hi, Jackie. How are you?
Hey, I'm pretty good. Yeah.
You're excited about today's show. Today's show is going to be pretty cool. We have a pretty cool guest that's going to show you the way. At least I can tell you this much. He's going to plant some seeds that you're going to want to go and explore some more, because this is deep. And this has the potential for bearing massive fruit on your apple tree or whatever kind of tree it is that you're growing. So pay attention.
Which is a little clue. That's totally a little clue there.
Pay attention. But first, Jackie, we want to hear what's going on at Speak, Feed, Lead. You have some young women that are getting ready to do a summit, and they're excited. You're excited, and I think this is awesome. So you got to take a minute and tell us about it.
Thank you for the opportunity, because I'll tell you what, the best part of life is when you're busy with productive, empowering activities. And even though I'm exhausted working with these 20 young women who are going to be on this summit next week, it's so fun to watch them get excited and to hear the messages that they're preparing to share with the global audience. I mean, it's far beyond what I even imagined that it was going to be. Sometimes you think, oh, young people, yeah, I'll give them a chance to talk, and hopefully they'll say something cool. But I'll tell you what, I'm blown away and really excited about hearing their messages, because they have sincerely felt some feelings over the last couple of years, and they've seen some things, they've had some experiences, and they want to talk about it. They have some things to say.
Yeah,
so
I bet there's
planet
a lot
needs to hear them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You and I were part of a contest with young people, and the subject of the planet, conservation and everything else, that was the main driver of their passion. And it was pretty cool to witness that. So this is a women's only summit, but men can go.
Yeah. Yes. It's a Voices of Women Summit. That's what it's called. And it's to celebrate International Women's Day, which is a week from today, March 8th. And so it's going to be a 12-hour summit happening all day long. The speakers are of the female persuasion, but it definitely will benefit anyone who wants to attend and listen to the fabulous messages that are going to be shared there. And there will be an entire track. There's about 9 or 10 tracks happening all at the same time. And so there's going to be one track for all of these young women to be speaking on throughout the day.
So there'll be a link in our newsletter this week, right?
Yes. I'm waiting to get the link myself, but yes, I want it in there.
So that's just a reminder for our listeners to go to www.lifemasteryradio.net or .com. Our show page is there with today's guests and links to our today's guest. That didn't sound right. And there's a link to sign up for our newsletter. And Jackie creates a newsletter every week. It highlights who's been on the show, who's coming on the show, and a blog post about the show that we just did. So it's action-packed. It's filled with all kinds of information and her take on what she learned or what she grasped from the show. And so it's pretty cool to reread that. I'm like, sometimes I read it and I'm like, where did she get that from? I have to go back and listen to the show because that's pretty cool.
My mind picks up on little nuances that maybe you don't catch.
While you're on our website, our cool website, all our shows are there. We must have 300. We also have a YouTube channel, but you can check out our books. There's links there to my book, 6 Keys to Life Mastery. There's a link there to Jackie's book, Self-Centered Leadership, and you will love both those books. Oh, and
a new book.
Number 2. Well, she's a contributor to that book.
I am a contributor to Heart Notes book. Yes, absolutely.
She wrote a Dear John letter. That's what we called them in the military, Dear John letters. When you got that letter from your girlfriend that she found another boyfriend or something, but she wrote a Dear John letter to lack in her life. It's pretty cool. I'm waiting to get my copy so that I can read her Dear John letter to lack. Bye-bye, lack. I'm done with you, buddy.
That's
out
right.
of here.
Kicking you out the door.
That's pretty cool. Newsletter, website. I think, Jackie, we are ready to go. And this is your guest. So tag you're it. You have the introduction. Take it away, Jackie Bele.
Thank you. I was so honored to meet Dr. Agrios, I don't know, a couple months ago or so. And the introduction I'm going to provide for you is so minute in content compared to what he's really all about. So I'm going to do my best, but it's not going to do him justice at all. So Philip C. Agrios, DC, he's a chiropractor, and then he's got all these other initials after his name, DACBSP. I have no idea what that means, but he is a personal and business advisor. He's an author, he's a speaker, and he teaches his clients how to stop sabotaging themselves and get out of their own way so they can have more freedom. Hello. His discovery of the 6-step problem-solving blueprint, which we're going to talk about today, allows him to quickly and precisely pinpoint the blocks that surround people in their business and their personal life. I feel like I'm a blockhead sometimes because I got all these blocks around me. So, and his life experiences, although have been filled with many tragic events, have prompted him to dedicate his life to teaching his discovery. He has created seminars, internet courses, and other avenues so others may be helped using the same principles as he did to continue on their journey of life, thereby attaining optimal health, wealth, and happiness. I think that's what we all want. So it is my great pleasure to introduce today Dr. Philip Agrios. Wonderful to have you with us.
Hi, Jackie. Todd, thank you so much for having me here. I appreciate it. Honored to be here.
Yeah, we're honored to have you on the show today because, you know, I told you during the pre-show, I grabbed your book. I usually scan through a book. I'm a speed reader. I found myself shifting down a gear and just grasping every word. It's an amazing book filled with an amazing amount of information. You almost want to read a little bit and then soak it in, right? And then read a little bit more and then soak it in because it is
and
so.
By the way, his book is called Life's One Law. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Life's One Law. I forgot to mention that in his introduction, but that is what y'all need to get to the bookstore, pick up today, or get on Amazon and pick it up. That's what Todd's talking about. And I didn't tell you that, but I'm telling you that now.
I know now. So, I watched some YouTube videos and some other videos that you've produced and interviews. I always like to get a sense of who our guest is and reading the book. And I'm thinking the whole time I was reading the book and watching some of these interviews, I was like, what is his mission statement? What is your mission, Doctor? Should I call you Philip? Doctor?
Call me Phil, Philip, that's whatever you want to call me. I don't care.
Just don't call you late for the show because you're here.
Exactly. Yeah. Or late for dinner, either one, right? My why I get up at 5 o'clock every morning, and, I was interviewed by somebody, and he was kind of like very serious type of thing. And he asked me, why you get out of bed? And I went, well, I was going to say, well, because I'm getting older and I have to pee, but that was another, but I didn't say that.
It's a good reason too.
Yeah, good reason. But I get up because I found something very powerful that no one else has. And I was blessed not only to find it, but now use it to help thousands and thousands of business owners and people, to help them to understand that there is only one thing they have to focus on within themselves. And when I first found this, I was on my living room floor, and I said, there's no way. It's this simple. This particular thing has caused my problems throughout my entire life down to childhood. It's causing the problems now. And now I can predict my future, that when I go into stress and things like that, I'll know what this is. So I didn't believe it. So I went out to try to disprove it. And over 30 years of thousands and thousands of people, I couldn't. And during the process, I was actually able to find a way to actually switch off this one trait. And I call it the inborn sabotaging trait. Not that it undermines us, it actually protects us from the very success that we seek, because if we achieve that success, it would be subconsciously more painful. So we don't do it. And when I saw it, I said it could be, but over time and over these 30 years, I was actually able to find a way to actually switch it off instantly, and it worked 100% of the time. Now, I'm from Jersey. You tell me this works 100% of the time, I'm going to say BS or some other word. I don't know whether I could say that or not. So knowing that, I went out to try to disprove that as well. And what happened was it worked 100% of the time, because it's actually a law. And that's why my book is called Life's One Law. But I call it the antidote. And the reason I call it the antidote is because if you were bitten by a venomous snake and you're about to die, do you want the antidote or something that might work? Right? You want the antidote. So if you're in a personal, professional situation and you're ready to go south, do you want the antidote to know exactly why you went south and how to shift it immediately? And that's what we discovered. And by understanding that one thing, that inborn sabotaging trait, it's there to protect you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not a loser and all the thousands of other words that you use. You're just in protection. And as soon as you move and use that antidote, you immediately go into growth, and you can find your solution guaranteed 100% of the time.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm going to jump in, Jackie, really quick, because my mind is exploding. but laws are immutable. I mean, laws are the law, right? They're the laws of nature. So you're saying one law, and give us a definition of that one law. What is the definition of that one law?
The one law is how energy, which is all of us, is directed, supplied, and connected to us, as in acted upon throughout the entire world. So what happened was, when I first discovered this, I discovered 6 steps that nature uses to come back from her storms. And those are the same 6 steps that nature uses in order for us to solve any business or personal problem. We talk about that into the book. When I looked at those 6 steps, I realized that the opposites to each other created 3 basic principles of the universe. And I call them the director principle, the supplier principle, and the communicator principle. And these principles govern the atoms to the galaxies. But I realized, since we're all the same, right, we are made up of everything else, is that these particular 3 principles governed us. And instead of saying the 3 principles, I governed them as the 3 traits. And one of those traits that's within us is the sabotaging trait, in order for us to protect ourselves. So when we move forward in a direction, and so that we're not supplied and connected to something that can harm us.
Fascinating.
Now you didn't just learn all this from a textbook. In fact, like many people who are now heroic and great and offer wonderful things to the world, were once struggling enormously, emotionally and in relationships and so forth. And you are no exception to that, right? Nope. So fill us in on the backstory a little bit as to how you ended up on the floor and kind of had this epiphany.
So I used to be a chiropractor and a functional medicine practitioner. My specialty was thyroid and autoimmune disease, the sick of the sickest. And I used to practice for 35 years. And back then, I remember waking up in the middle of the night one night. It was pitch dark. It was like someone gave me infused me with 10 Red Bulls. So, you're up, right? You can clean your house not once, but twice in an hour, right? That's how I felt. So I went to my study, was saying, okay, let me do some work. And I was going through my drawers and I came up with my 5-year goals. My goals were 5 years prior. Have you ever had that, right? And I was really excited, right? And I was looking down, and by the end of the last one, I didn't accomplish one damn thing on that thing. I was like, are you serious? I'm like, I took all the greats, right? I had all those gurus. I had all their cassette tape programs. Remember cassette tapes, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that's how far back I'm going. And I just sat there in silence and I went, this can't be. I said, I felt horrible about myself. And then something deep inside of me, when you sit there for a long time, said, you're not being taught something. And I found myself on this journey. I wasn't looking for it. I just happened to find myself on this journey. Now, I warn everybody that if something deep down inside of you, go find something that no one else has discovered, you're going to go through some stuff, right? And that's what happened. So it all started from a false accusation from an insurance company. 3 things were going to happen. I was going to jail. I was going to lose my chiropractic license, and I was going to have to pay back 3 times of what they paid me. And of course, other insurance companies jumped on as well. During that process, my father was diagnosed with brain cancer. And within 7 months, he passed away. He was a healthy 71-year-old. I then became the primary caretaker of my ailing mother for 7 years until she passed. And during that whole process, the stress was so unbearable that I actually created a thing called thoracic outlet syndrome and carpal tunnel syndrome, which caused weakness and numbness down both my hands. And I couldn't practice. I would get out of bed like I was walking on glass, and I was in my late 30s. And I found that I actually lost my practice because I was disabled. I remember turning that key for the last time and walking away and going, now what, right? And during that whole process, I started to shift into the discovery I started to look at. And then during that whole process for another few years, I went through a horrific divorce. I went through financial ruin. 2008 was one of them. One of my daughters almost committed suicide. They said that if my ex came home 10 minutes later, she would have been dead. And I can keep on going on, but I have no regret, because I wouldn't be standing in front of you two and your entire audience if I didn't go through it. So I have no regret. I would have never discovered what I discovered. So that's a little bit of what I've went through in order to really dive into going, why is this happening? What's going on? And then just having a flood of download stuff and then trying to figure it out. And that's why it took 30 years to try to figure this out, because there's nothing like it.
But I think it's important. It's important for people to hear that story, though, Philip, because many people are in that dark place. And for them to hear you say, it took a discovery. It took me to figure it out. And so for them, I want you all to know it's coming. Hang in there. The discovery is coming. All right.
If I can just say to your audience, everybody right now, just say, it's okay. Just say, it's okay. Give yourself a little calming now. Once you understand your inborn sabotaging trait, you'll understand why you're in the situation that you're in, because you're just in that protection. And once you understand that, you can shift that very quickly.
Well, let's talk about that. There's a lot to unpack here. I think before we even get into the meat and potatoes, I'm going to have to preface it with Philip's going to have to come back, because there's no way we're going to be able to cover it all here.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, we have it on the record. But you have created this test, and people can go to your website and take this test. Both Jackie and I have taken it and gone through it. It's only 9 questions, but it's pretty extensive. And the result, I mean, you get back, and this is all for free, people. This is all for free, and it will get you started into this thinking and this idea of your self-sabotaging trait. And so tell us about that. Explain to us a little bit about this test and what it does.
Sure. But as I explained, there are those three principles. So basically, there are actually three inborn sabotaging traits. Out of 8 billion people, there's only three. I didn't believe it either. And what happens is, I guess, should I explain? Let me explain
Sure.
what each one was. So briefly, there's one that you want to write this down called the director saboteur. If it's not you, think about somebody else in your life that's doing it. Now, all three are within us. They create this sequence, but one really you use more that's extensive. Okay. And that's why when we work with people in my live Zoom course, we dive deeply into it. And it's such an amazing thing that within the first or second week, everybody has a major breakthrough. Okay. So basically, the director saboteur is a person who is scattered all over the place. They go get 99% done with something, stop, and then do something else because they don't have enough knowledge and they freeze, or they don't have enough trust in themselves, or they're bored. So chaos is their friend because it stimulates their brain. It actually helps them. They usually have a dopamine or a serotonin problem, which is a neurotransmitter in the brain. And what happens is they don't like to be told what to do. They don't like to be held accountable or helped to be responsible. Now, they'll go to the other extreme because they'll get so hyper-focused, they have a time distortion. Like, honey, I'll be out in 5 minutes, and 5 hours later, they emerge. And they're staying there for like all that time. And all of a sudden, 2 days later, they emerge and go, oh my God, I'm behind with this. And then they go back and forth, and now they're scattered. Majority of times they're on this side, but they'll be on the other side of hyper-focus to try to balance out. When they use their antidote, then they can get immediately into center and move forward. The supplier saboteur, so write down supplier saboteur, it's a person who overly gives. They have a hard time saying no or not now to people. They feel that they have to give because if they give to themselves, they feel selfish. And what happens is that they have given their generosity to people, and people have taken advantage of it. And they might have, treat them like a doormat or things like that. But then sometimes they'll go to the other extreme and say, screw you, I'm done with you, and then take for themselves. But depending on the person and the event, then they'll start feeling guilty, and then they'll go back and overly give. So these are like, if you're a business owner, you may overly share. You'll give stuff for free that you shouldn't be giving, or you're on a first date, you share like everything in that aspect as well. So that's the supplier saboteur on either side, mainly overly giving, but they can take, especially if they got hurt in the past, that really hurt. I've dealt with supplier saboteurs who've been really hurt, that they're more on the kind of narcissistic, like overly taking side, because they're really protecting themselves. And when they realize that, they go back into the middle. It's really cool to see. And then there's the communicator saboteur. So write down the communicator saboteur. Communicator saboteur is a person who they're very loyal, but they listen a lot. They don't express themselves. They're great poker players because you have no idea what the hell they're thinking or feeling. And you're sitting there. And what happens is they over-process things. So have you ever had a person where you're in an argument and then all of a sudden they just disconnect, and 2 days later they come back and go, I want to talk about it. And like, I've been past that. Why? They're overly processing that. And so, but then they can go to because the reason they do that, they don't want to feel stupid or embarrassed. So they don't confront people, they pull back. So they kind of stay more in their shell. But then they can go to the other extreme and they can blast somebody because it's the volcano effect, or they'll tell them they're an idiot under their breath, still not telling them how they're feeling or thinking. And then they'll go back and disconnect. Mm-hmm. So those are the three inborn sabotaging traits. So now, in that aspect, there's also a sequence. And out of those three sequences, you have all three. And depending how that sequence is, once I know that about you, I can tell you everything about you and never meet you.
Yeah. So you've created this algorithm that you just answer these 9 questions, and bada boom, bada bang, you come up with your sabotaging trait.
Right. And you got to make sure you read the instructions. Some people, especially director saboteurs, they'll just buzz through. These director saboteurs are like, they'll read a contract like 2 seconds and they'll sign it, and then later go, oh my God, what did I do?
What did I sign?
But what when you read the instructions, it tells you that to answer them as if you had when you go back to old patterns, especially coaches. A lot of coaches answer it as they are because they don't, they have a hard time answering when they went back, but answer it back when you're like a teenager and a child, and you'll see that when you say, well, I used to do that, well, you're using the antidote. And what's cool about this is now you know why you were successful. But now we're not talking about the 85% of your life and your business that's going well. We're talking about that 5, 10, 15 that's not. And that's when you're in that saboteur situation.
So you take the test, you get the diagnosis. Is that correct? Is that a good way to say it?
Or, no diagnosis. We're stepping
not
over
a diagnosis.
You're getting an assessment.
An assessment. There we go. So you get the assessment, and like for me personally, when I did it, I was like, yeah, I don't know. I stopped reading. I couldn't handle it. And I read the book a little bit, and then I went back to it, and I'm like, okay, you nailed me. But you get that assessment, and then you also get, I mean, this is all for free. You get these tools, and then you get the antidote of what you should be working with to counteract that sabotaging trait. Did I get that right?
Right. Again, it's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
This goes much deeper, but they also will be able to have a 30-minute free strategy call with me. And I tell them to, when you book an appointment with me, make sure you have a problem, a business and or a personal problem. And I'll show you how the inborn sabotage trait caused it and how the antidote is the start of the solution. But then by going deeper into the other things that we can talk about later, is that's when you really understand it. And that's when the breakthroughs happen. I mean, I've had people use the antidote. It's working, right? Jackie, you're seeing it working, but imagine it really working, what it can do. And that's why people have 10X to 350% 10X their businesses, their relationships. I've dealt with divorced people that they were like on the brink of divorce, not because they hated each other. It was because they were protecting themselves from each other.
Yeah.
Due to the saboteur. And once I see that, pretty instant, I'm just dealing with somebody who they were ready to call the lawyer. And the first question is, you guys still think you like each other and things like that? And they said yes. And we started within a month, things are going like 80 to 90% much more effectively. They have a son as well who's young, but now they understand their son's inborn sabotage and trait and antidote. So you have to realize, once you understand other people around you, now you'll know why they do what they do. I had a manager one time come up to me after my workshop and said, my son's always upstairs playing video games. I can't get him downstairs to interact with the family. So we ascertained this sequence, which we'll go a little deeper. And I gave him something very specific. Within less than a week, his son was downstairs interacting with the family, but their relationship skyrocketed within 2 months because the father realized he was the one that was pushing his son back into the room. And once he realized that and started working his antidote with his son's antidote, it started to immediately shift. And then he realized he was doing the same thing in his business and with his employees. Once he did that, his business skyrocketed as well.
Wow.
I'm in. Where do I? Where
All right. So maybe we should share.
We're going to tell you where that is, right? Yeah. And that's the whole break. I mean, and I'll do another thing. We were on my 5-week online course. I had a coach who was a communicator saboteur, and her husband was a director. And basically the relationship wasn't doing that great. During the course, she was understanding her, but she understood her husband. And once she started doing that, the relationship started to increase pretty quickly within the 4 to 5 weeks, but he never knew she was taking the course.
Yeah, I can imagine that has an empowering effect when you actually have an understanding of how your partner shows up in the world, right? This is the way this, and you know, we don't come into this world with the instruction booklet, nor do, when we get married, do we get the instruction booklet, yet we take off into our lives thinking that we know what this person is all about, and we really don't, right?
Yeah, and that's why I said this can't be this simple. And right. I remember talking to the and I've helped business partners as well, child parent relationships. But I told them, you have to do this to this. And, I told her, you have to acknowledge her and you have to value him. That was it. That's how simple I got within that moment, within the week, by them just focusing on that, it shifted because it's a domino effect. I call it the behavioral domino effect, right? You ever see these guys when they have these, the master domino, they set this thing up and you push the one domino, it goes, right?
Now there's a whole TV series about that.
Yes, I can't wait to see that. And then the last one hits and then the balloons release, let's say. What's the last thing you see? The balloons. That's your imposter syndrome. That's your anxiety. That's everything you feel and see last. So what do? We take our coping methods and do what? We put them on the balloons, not the one damn domino. So when you push the one domino, what's easier? Holding down the balloons is not pushing the one domino. And that's your saboteur. So when you push that, you go down the road of frustration. When you push the antidote, you go down the road of inspiration. This is not motivation, rah, rah. This is everlasting. And then that's week 3 in our 5-week online course. On week 4, we actually extrapolate one subconscious word that stops all your goals. It stopped it in the past, it's stopping them now, and it'll stop it for the rest of your life. Might be a good word to know. Once you understand this one word and how this stops this goal and this goal and this goal, then we take 5 specific steps, put it against that one word, and you have to achieve your goals.
Wow. How long does this course take? Is it
5 weeks?
5 weeks.
Okay.
That's
5
it.
weeks.
Get in, get out of my way.
It can't be this simple, Phil. It can't.
I know. People look at me like, really? And I'm like, look, I don't say things because my reputation is really important to me, but working with thousands, whether you're a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company or a child, this works 100% of the time. It just not fail because when you know this, see, look, can you see the back of my hand?
Nope.
No.
Can you see the front of my hand?
Nope.
No.
Okay, so this is the saboteur and this is the antidote. When you use the antidote, it's impossible to sabotage your business and your career and your life. And when you use this, it's impossible not to sabotage your business, your career, and your life. So all you're doing is this, you're not going up a hill. See, when you go up the hill, I got to be better. I got to be this, I got to be smarter. You're going up a hill. And as soon as you stop, what has to happen? You're going down. That's why we're always, I got to move. I can't stop. I got to move, thinking you're going up the hill. No, you're just going down a road. So let's think differently and move this way. That's how simple it is. Your life in the course, your life comes down to one sentence, and you'll see how this one word will, when you don't use it, will allow you to move forward in life. So that way I prove it to you.
Wow. Okay. So we have one of these courses coming up soon.
Yes, we have March 9th and March 17th. But we'd love to have them to book a call with me so we can talk to make sure this is something for them. And and what's great is that after the second week, if you feel this is not right for you, get 100% of your money back. But no one ever does, because once they understand their sequence, they don't go back. So
the process is to take this quiz, have a 30-minute conversation with you, and then
the process would be book a call. Within the book of the call, when you make you can have access to the quiz, then we'll sit for 30 minutes, go over everything with them, and then determine if this is, and it's a no pressure, friendly call. I mean, I'm not here to, I don't want everybody to take the course. And you're like, why? Because I have a really high success rate. If you're not committed, then I don't want you to take the course. Truly, I don't. I've told people, no, come back. You're not ready.
Wow.
Fascinating.
So let's hear what Todd is. Todd, you are what?
That thing,
Oh, yeah.
Communication saboteur.
Right. The communicator saboteur. Right. And when you took the quiz, it made sense to you, right?
At first, I didn't want to. There's something inside of me that said, and I backed away from it. But I came back to it, and I got a buy-in.
Can I tell you a story real quick?
Sure. So
when I first started utilizing it, I was using with my patients, and what happened was I would show my patients why health was more painful to sustain and to attain than staying in the disease state because of the saboteur. Right. So what we're finding is, why were they going in and eating and doing what they're doing that would cause them to do opposite of what I was telling them to do? It would cause inflammation and cause problems. So when they understood it was a saboteur, that it was really the thing before that was more painful to deal with than to eat or drink and have 4 days of pain. But once they understand the saboteur and they use the antidote, they didn't go there as much because they actually dealt with the situation. So before we had our digital workbook, so I had a Parkinson patient of mine because I was working with autoimmune patients, and he was filling out that part. And all of a sudden, his hands started to shake and his jaw started to shake. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, interesting. So he got done. I looked at him. I said, I said, did you notice something? He goes, yeah. I said, can you see by you just now consciously knowing what you're doing, you immediately went into that? He goes, yeah. So when he started using the antidote, he had less of that reaction and now he realized when he went into that, he was in protection. And that was when I went, it can't be that simple either. So that's why some people kind of like sit back and go, no, it can't be me, because it's really coming at them the truth and they're freaking out. But don't freak out. You have the antidote. And then when you go down deeper, it's so beautiful that you can see what's happening. And you'll see a lot of our testimonials from CEOs down to, I had a 25-year-old found out within the first week why she had all these lousy relationships, why she was bringing abusive people in, and she was a supplier saboteur. And when she started realizing by the 5th week, she shifted and started to actually date men that actually did that
quick. Just bada boom, bada bang. And just with that information. Yeah.
I know it just sounds like, and skeptics are my best clients. I love skeptics because I just say, well, let's see what happens in 2 weeks. And it's really cool. But when you listen to the testimonials, it will you'll see there's just a different variety of different business people and other people who have careers.
Wow. Okay. Well, I will tell our listening audience that I took the quiz with Dr. Agrios when I first met him, and I came up as a
supplier.
What am I? A supplier saboteur. And I probably won't explain this well, but it's because I give too much. And then because I give so much, I have this expectation that I'll get something back. And then when I don't, dang, that bugs me. So I feel like, I'm good. I'm giving, but I'm not getting.
Because you devalue yourself at that moment.
Exactly. And so my whole mindset
you're
has
vibrating,
been, I just have to keep working harder. I just have to keep working harder. So the antidote then I learned is that I need to cut myself some slack and take care of myself. And I need to just step back and let it go for a little bit. And so I tried this. And I got to tell you, it was at first it was hard because I felt guilty stepping back and saying, I'm not going to worry about that. Yes, I'm going to give something, but then I'm not going to expect anything in return. I'm going to just take a break and I'm going to go do something that I enjoy. Walk away from work. I'm going to go do something I enjoy. It was really difficult. And at first I was like, I'm going to feel some guilt here, but I got to tell you, it didn't. And in fact, I felt more energized to go back. And things started happening. There was a shift. And I actually felt that I was making more inroads toward important relationships and connections than I had been before when I was even trying harder. So it definitely did have some effect. And it's something that I've continued.
It can't be that simple. It can't be that simple. There's just no way.
And imagine if you really went through it. I had a client within 2 weeks because she was overly, you ever have those, a lot of sales managers maybe listening who have salespeople that overly talk, right? Because they just talk themselves out of the sale. And what's the first thing you tell them to do? Take communication courses, right? And I go, no. That's their superpower, baby. No, it's really their saboteur because their communication is overly compensating because they're not using their antidote. And as soon as you use the antidote, their communication skills becomes that quick. I had a client within 2 weeks, got an $84,000 week because when she saw, she was just, I call it vomiting, right? All out. But when she pulled back and I told her exactly what to do, it's shifting. And we see that all the time, because if you don't close, those of you out there who are business owners that have to close or salespeople, when you don't close, it's your saboteur stopping you, because it's more painful to close that sale than not. And then on top of that, your business has its own inborn sabotaging trait and antidote. So I teach a workshop where we show the business owner, managers, and staff how they use their personal saboteur and enhance the business's saboteur. So they're actually subconsciously sabotaging the business. And when they use their antidote to the business's antidote, it's like a valve of success that kicks in. It's really cool.
Wow. Yeah. So I just had to value myself more, which, it's hard to do. But.
So now during the pre-show, you said we could talk about the dynamic between the two of us. Is there anything that comes up?
Yes. So, no, I don't even have to see you interact. Okay. When I do that. So, because, like I've had clients where, let's say you guys are married. I've had clients where I've asked a few questions and ascertained the spouse's saboteur, and I would tell him or her exactly the relationship, and they would look at me and go, "How did you know that?" So basing on your sequences, now we're going to go when you guys have. I mean, you seem that you guys have a really good relationship. I mean, there are times you probably kind of get a little piffed with each other, right, once in a while.
I don't think we've ever done that. No.
Okay, great. So what happens is the reason why you don't is because you actually express to Jackie what's happening. You don't sit back and just not talk to her for 3 or 4 days. Okay. And then she actually values your thoughts and your concerns as well. And that's how you guys basically intertwine beautifully. But the reason why you guys can get a little upset or maybe a little bit off with each other, or think about with your own spouses or other people with your children. So when you go back and Todd, if you're not talking and you're sitting back and thinking and over processing things for a while, your business partner or your spouse, whatever, it's like, I just don't know what the heck she's thinking. I mean, come on, can you at least give me a break? And then that end of it, they don't know. With Jackie, they get upset because she just overly gives and she doesn't allow to take care of herself. And she allows people to take advantage of them, and that upsets the spouse as well. Or she'll get to the other extreme and just tell the spouse to go to because she's had it with him, right? So again, depending on this back and forth, we can help that end of it. I've had business partners where they're at fracture, and we were able to heal that. I actually had 2 business partners that they were at each other's throats. They were really good friends. I said, you guys got to split. This is not happening. And actually by splitting, we actually were able to help heal that relationship. Now they're best friends again, and they actually are referring each other and helping each other grow their businesses.
Well,
wow. Well, now
there is a dynamic that is underlying that we don't actually realize is occurring.
Subconscious.
Yeah. Fascinating.
You got to bring it to the conscious level. And when you have in the conscious, like for instance, the reason why people have lack of money or any lack is because they're vibrating lack. It's their saboteur, because them bringing money in would actually be subconsciously more painful. So they actually push it away.
Wow.
But when they use the antidote, their vibration changes. So it has to come in now. So the people outside of you, anything outside of you is you. The person you can't stand is a part of you you can't stand. Once you understand that and how they are coming in and showing up to show you, and you deal with that part of you, the saboteur, 2 things happen. They leave or they shift because they want to stay in your world.
Well, and if this isn't fascinating enough, then in your book, which I wasn't expecting at all, you start talking about that there's actually 6 seasons rather than 4 that we're used to. And that I think the most amazing thing for me is that it correlates with the cycles of our bodies as well. So as the planet has these cycles and seasons have these cycles, and so do us, and they all intertwine.
Well, I found that fascinating too when I was reading your book, and you call it nature's blueprint, and how do these 2 interact with each other?
Okay.
I
Maybe
know
that
that's
was
a
too
lot
deep.
to try to
Take-
say.
Well,
Take
yeah,
what part of that
I think
you
people
want.
are, I think people are still, because I used to talk about that and I would come back and they're like, wow, you just over vomited on us. And I think so a lot of people
Okay.
are still trying to figure out how the hell is one thing that they
Right.
focus on and get them this, right? So we can, if they want to buy the book and look at it, and because in there, I'm not saying you don't have to buy the book. I'm not here for me to get a sale. I'm just saying is if you want to go a little deeper, that would be a thing. But the 5-week online course is what really gets to the key of it, gets to a point. If you're having business problems, you're having relationship problems, if you're having if you have a low performing employee, within 2 weeks or less, you can get them from a low to a high performer. There's so many things by you focusing on you, how you can shift on that end of it.
And that's just by me working with me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not directing it at somebody else. I can't make Jackie do something different. It's by me doing stuff for me that these things magically start to happen.
Well, you can actually help Jackie shift by shifting you. And when you shift, let's say you had a little bit of a tiff, by you shifting you, then she has an opportunity to shift because she'll feel more safe with you. And therefore her guard will go down. So imagine having a potential client, knowing they're saboteur, you'll know why they're resistive. And then from there, you can guide them to their product if that product is for them. Karma's a
Dude,
bitch.
that's power. You're giving power away. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, because that way, people have a hard time selling. They don't realize the German word of sell is to give. So I tell people who have a hard time selling, how dare you not give your expertise, because that person is in need of it. If you had the cure for cancer and a cancer patient's in front of you, would you shut up or would you tell them?
Right.
So if you have something that can help a business person or a relationship or whatever you do, that's your superpower, that's what you really want to do, that's your life, then start telling people about it. In a balanced way. You may vomit, you may become too structured, but that's why we teach people how to shift that and how to connect to them very quickly so that you can help them synergistically do what you do, why you're here and why they're here.
Okay, so
here she goes. No.
Here we go. I'm going to paint for you a scenario. As you go, when you say, you go back to when you were young, and this is the way you handle things in order to take this quiz, right? To determine your saboteur trait. Well, so I'm going to give you this scenario. It's a true story about when I was a kid, and knowing that I am a supplier saboteur, I want you to walk through with me how that manifests through this experience. Okay.
Sure.
All right. So I'm probably in 3rd grade, and I make this little finger puppet show out of a shoebox. And then I created these little 4 characters that would fit on my fingers. And then with the slit in the shoebox created the stage, right? And then my fingers would come through the bottom, and then these 4 characters would go on the stage. And I take this puppet show to school, and I take it out on the playground at recess, and I start showing it to a few of my friends. And then before I know it, there's more kids that are leaving the swings and the slides and the merry-go-rounds, and they're coming over to watch me perform this little puppet show. And before long, there are like 50 kids sitting around me, watching me do this little puppet. And I froze, because all of a sudden I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this anymore, because now the demand was perform for me. And I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And so I started to put my puppets away and get up and everybody started going, no, puppet show, do the puppet show. And I grabbed my stuff and I started running, and they were chasing me. These kids were chasing me to do this puppet show. And I think that scarred me a little bit, because it's always made me feel like there's the stress and the pressure is on to perform, to give, to be ready, and to be on all the time. And that's sometimes a little bit too hard to handle. So walk through how that manifests to you that particular saboteur trait and what the antidote was at that time for me.
I got nothing. No,
Really?
no, I'm kidding. So
Well, that's quite a vivid memory from the third grade, don't you think?
I had a
this
huge impact
has
on
some-
me.
do you think there's some type of situation in trauma? Exactly. It's a trauma that you can still,
Yeah.
and that I'll, when, maybe off the air, I'll tell you what happened to me. I don't want to take it away from you, but yeah, second grade, bingo. So
Yeah.
it was okay with a few people because you were comfortable until it hit a plateau of too many, right? You started to devalue yourself.
Mm.
You started to question yourself. And what happened was you went into your superpower. Am I communicating well? And now I have more people. I'm okay with small people because I can talk to them here and there, but now I got to talk to a whole group and I can't talk to them individually. How do I do that? You're 8 years old, 9 years old, right? So what happened was after a while, you see this whole pressure because the more and more people, the more a possibility of being rejected, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's 2 base spheres for each saboteur, which we didn't get into. But
Oh, there's so much. Yeah.
yeah. So basically, and this is resonating so far. So to a point where you have that possibility of being rejected, you weren't patient with yourself. You were being like, okay, am I doing this right? Am I projecting? Am I, is my superpower, my communicator really connecting with these people? And now you're really connecting with them and it's freaking you out because it's never happened before.
Right.
So am I really worthy of this? And that can go down to what happened prior to that third grade, right? We're not getting into psychology or psychiatrists here. But then what happens is that situation was the thousands of other things that happened prior to you on a subconscious level that were devaluing, whether you had some siblings or your parents might have devalued or other things. So immediately, I'm not worthy of this. Or maybe mom and dad said, don't be the show. You have to give to others and you got to pull back. You got to be the limelight. I'm just making stuff up. I don't know if that's true or not. But from there, then it was like, what? Now I have to protect myself instead of overly giving. I am now taking and I'm disconnecting and getting the hell out. Does that resonate?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I learned then to use the antidote, right? Because the antidote was protect yourself, get out of this situation. Is that right? Or was the antidote, hey, you are worthy of being heard here, so just stay with us and do your best. Is that the antidote?
You're killing it. Yeah, you're killing it. You're valuing
Okay.
and you're giving value to the other kids. They're enjoying. They were probably maybe some kids were sad, and now you made them happy. But that was also a responsibility, which is your mediator trait. We didn't know about the other 3 traits, and then all of a sudden you stop, and then because it wasn't feeling good for you. See, suppliers love to, you don't feel, the gut was telling you, oh my God, this is not feeling right because it was uncomfortable, even though it was beautiful.
Yeah.
You weren't used to that.
Right.
Oh my gosh, you just never know what you're going to learn. What's even more fascinating, Philip, is that with that kind of trauma in her head, she became a very successful public speaker.
And thank you for that. Congratulations. See, people ask me, with trauma, I have an online course that's called Rise Above Adversity. Excuse me. And we dive deeply into 5 different ways to switch off adversity very quickly. And one of the things that you are actually doing, I tell people, is that if it wasn't for that trauma, you wouldn't be who you are. So be grateful for that trauma. And when you are actually grateful for something, there's nothing to forgive. See, gratitude and forgiveness are the same. Gratitude is to what? To give. Forgive is to forgo, to let go. It's the same movement. So when you're actually grateful for something, for someone hurting you or whatever, or even hurting somebody else, then there's nothing to forgive because there was a benefit. Just got off the phone with one of my clients this morning. He was freaking out. And I said, I'm so happy for you. He wanted to kill me. I said, this is great because you're making so much steps. This is a major thing. You're realizing you're doing this and this and this. You're doing not illegal things, but the possibility of a illegal thing, and you're freaking out. And the universe is going, done. So now
I'm-
we're shifting and helping him become integrity, have the
I'm
integrity.
freaking out now because we are out of time.
Oh,
Dang it.
okay.
Yes.
We're definitely going to have you back, Philip. I think there's so much more to talk about. And I had an absolute blast. I
Me
know
too.
Jackie did. Look at the smile on Jackie's face. She's just like, I had a
I may be a
blast.
speaker, but I never became a puppeteer.
Well, that's the whole thing. So, one of the things we're doing really quick before we leave is that if you go to bookwithdrphil.com, bookwithdrphil.com, for the next 2 days, 15% of anything you sign up
Yeah, we
for
forgot to talk
will
about that.
go to the charity of Jackie's. So you have 2 days to do that, and they'll give you a link below that's specific for that as well.
Yeah, we'll put that link in the newsletter.
Well, let's have a conversation, book a call, let's talk. Friendly. You see, I'm not
I think you got two people right now standing in line. So
Yeah.
our listeners.
We'll send you the link and get you guys going. Let's go for it.
Awesome. Thank you.
But thank you so much for the trust and being
Oh, thank you
vulnerable,
for showing up as
Jackie.
you. That's cool.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jackie. And I hope that helped you.
Definitely. Absolutely.
We are down to the wire. Please, please, please make it a great day because it is all about choice. And choose to check out Dr. Phil's material and website and our website and find the links. That's it. Bye-bye for now.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.